Hello everyone and welcome to another Oracle Hospitality Symphony POS tutorial. Today we're going to talk about page design. More specifically, we're going to redesign this bar screen. Now this was submitted by Jonathan on our Facebook group asking some questions about some bar modifiers, but one of our students requested that I show you guys how to recreate it in Symphony. So I'm going to save this page and let's jump into EMC and see how we do it. So here we are in EMC and I took a screenshot of that screen just to have it as a reference, and taking a look at it, it looks pretty standard. We have a check detail area. We have a left content area where we have all of our buttons to enter the quantities. And then here at the top in our main tabs, we have liquor brands, cocktails, beers, wines. And then we have side tabs for each one. In the center is going to be our screen lookup for each side tab. And here on the bottom, we have a food. So most likely this button would go to another food transaction screen. And then we also have a pay and a function. So it looks like in total, this whole transaction screen is made out of 4 pages. We have a bar page, a food page, a pay page, and a functions page, plus all of the functions we have here at the bottom. Now, taking a look at this, it reminds me a lot of a Res or 9700 style screen. In the new Symphony, we kind of moved away from having multiple pages for our transaction screens. We just keep them all together because Symphony has something called dynamic screen lookups. And I'll go into EMC and show you what I mean. So I'm going to go into configuration and open the way I design my page. And you see, I only have 1 transaction page. I don't have 4. If I open it, then you can see I have my food area and then drinks area and then functions and payments. So basically kind of the same 4 areas of the screen as in that example, but instead of being 4 separate pages, I just have them as 4 separate tabs. Now, in order to achieve this, I am using dynamic slews or screen lookups, which are only available in this version of Symphony. So that's why we used to use that style of screens in Res and in 9700. So what basically that means is that having 1 screen lookup here, instead of it just hosting 1 type of drinks or food or items, it can host multiple. So I added these buttons at the top, which are visual states, and they change an argument here. So when I click this, it changes the argument for the visual state to number 20. And as a result of that, when the visual state changes to 20, the screen lookup, this thing here, will change to show the non-alcoholic beverages. And then this button will change it to 21, which will show the teas, the coffee, and everything. So if we take a look at our liquors, for example, instead of having all the liquors on the side here, I have them as dynamic screen lookups. So I have my vodkas and everything else part of this dynamic screen lookup. But the request was to show you how we would program that particular one, but I also wanted to show you the difference between using just 1 screen lookup and dynamic screen lookups. So the first thing I'm gonna do is add a new page. So all I have to do is click insert, and I'm gonna send it to record maybe 100 here somewhere on the bottom. And I'm gonna name it bar, because this is gonna be our bar page. And next we have to choose what kind of template we want. So the template that we want to choose, this one has tabs, top navigation bar, and small detail area. This is a good one. And this one also has top navigation bar with a medium detail area. And this is talking about how big the check detail area is. So I'm going to choose this one with a small detail area. Some of them do not have tabs, so you have to be careful about that one. For example, this one is just a blank page. And I'm just going to choose this, and then I'm going to click OK. And now we have this blank page. Now, the first thing I notice when I look at it is that we have a slight difference in colors. So in order to fix that, we're actually going to change the theme. So I'm going to change it. The theme that I'm using is Hornet, but that theme is actually Ocean. So I'm going to change it to Ocean, and then I'm going to just refresh the screen. So now our bar looks exactly like that one with the blue color theme. So here at the top, we're gonna have to add our main navigation area and the side tabs. And we have our check detail area, just like in that example, but we also have the left of check detail area where we had the buttons, the 1 through 10. like you see here, we have 1 through 10. So we need to add this content area. And then we also have another content area here where we have our pay and our functions. So let's go ahead and add those. We have all the different content areas here. The last entry area, this is also another good one to have. This one will also help you enter when you push the numbers, you can actually see what you're entering. Top content area, we can add another space here if we wanted to, but we're not going to use that right now. Left of check detail area, we can add one here on the left, but remember we were using one to the right of the check detail area. So we're going to check this box here. And also we're going to check this box to have the right of content area. And remember here we're going to add the buttons 1 through 10, and here we're going to add those two pay and function keys. And the first change we're going to make is the top content area here and the bottom content area. So at the top, we only have one of these tabs. It's going to be the employee name, and the last entry area is very thin. And then here at the bottom, we have 5 different content areas. So let's jump into our EMC. And to do all that, we're going to go to the configuration tab here. And the first thing I'm going to do is decrease the font size of that last entry area to probably about a 20. That looks about right on the same size. And then for this one, we can edit the bottom status here. I remember we had 5 different items, so I have 4 right now. I can add one more. And for this one, I'm just going to enter the CAPS connection status. So that's going to tell me if this workstation is online to CAPS or not. And you can add as many as these as you want, and you can ask them to show you whatever information you want. So this is the information they will show when the workstation is signed out, when the employee is signed in, and in a transaction, and you can have it show different statuses. So for example, with this one, if you're signed out, you see the workstation name, and if you're signed in, then you see the transaction employee name. So I'm going to click OK, and now you have all 5 of these. And if you need to move them around, you can just use the arrow keys, delete them, edit them, or add more. So that looks like it added another one. I can go ahead and save, go back to my edit. And this is one thing that I noticed with page design. Whenever I go to the configuration tab and back, it changes the aspect ratio. So I have to change it back and then one more time. And then now you can see the last entry area is much thinner, like in our example. But the information area at the top has 4 different ones. So I only want to keep the transaction employee name. So I'm actually going to remove the other ones. So delete this one, and delete this one. So now we have just one information area, the last entry area, and the 5 we had in that example. Next, let's go ahead and add all of these buttons with our numbers, and then these 2 buttons to the side here. So we're going to go into this content area, right click, and say add a button. I'm gonna move it slightly up and make it a little wider. And this is gonna be a numeric function. From the type, we're gonna select alphanumeric. And here for the text, we're gonna enter 1 and then click generate legend. And what we can do is we can copy it and paste it in place and then move it up. This is gonna be 2. So I go 2 and 2. And then we can also change the color of these since we have them here, and we can put it as this nice mauve color. Okay, and now I have 2 of them. I can copy both at the same time and paste them both, move them up, and these are going to be my 3 and 4, and I'll finish the rest of these. Okay, so now that I finished with all the numbers, and also remember to add 0 here in case you need to use 10 or 20. We need to add the @ sign and then the clear. And I'm gonna copy 2 of these buttons, copy them, paste the last 2 here. And then you can either leave a space between them or you can make one of them slightly bigger. And the @ sign is actually a function. So we're gonna go back to function and we're gonna look for @. So it says @for, generate the legend, and I'll just leave the @ here. And then this one was a clear, which is also a function. So this one will help us clear the screen just in case we made a mistake. So now we can generate legend for that one. And I'll remove the no, so it just says clear, and that's it. We just gonna need to change the colors for these. And this one was blue. So we're gonna give it this blue, and this one was kind of teal. So now we have them exactly the way we need them. If we need to change the font on any of these, if you go to the advanced tab here, you can actually check the font size and you can make them slightly bigger, like 18 or maybe even 20. And if you need to have that, you can change them for all of them. Now, the way we use these buttons is just in conjunction with the menu items that we'll have here. So we can hit the 3 and then a menu item, and it's going to order 3 of the items for us. And the clear is pretty obvious what we use it. If we made a mistake, we need to clear the screen. We just hit clear. The @ sign here, we use it in a couple of specific cases. For example, if we have an open priced item and we hit 3 and then open food, for example, it's just gonna assume that this open food cost 3 cents because we used the 3 before it. Or if we use 300, then it's gonna say $3. But if we wanna have 3 different open foods of different amounts, then we have to say 3 at open food, and then it's gonna ask us how much it costs. So that's what the @ is for, in case you have an open food item or an open discount or something like that. So now that we're done with the numbers, I'm just gonna go ahead and save. And you should get into the habit of saving from time to time, just in case there's an error or a glitch. You don't wanna spend a couple of hours designing the screen and then all of a sudden you have a glitch and you lose all your work. Next, we're gonna add these buttons where we're gonna navigate around. So we have a food button here, which is kind of a next screen button, and then the pay and functions. So all we have to do is right click, add a button, move it here to the left, change it to be white. And then this is gonna be on next. It's gonna be next screen. We're gonna click OK. And then we're gonna send it somewhere else. So besides making this function that it goes to a next screen, you have to select the next page. So if we have a next page, we're probably gonna be page number 101 for food. Make sure you select it there. I can put it to my transaction page for now, for example. And if you wanna be even more specific, you can click this and tell it where in that page, like which side tab. So maybe you wanna send it to the breakfast or the sides or something like that. So then this one, we will call it food. And this is gonna be our navigation button. And also I'm gonna increase the size slightly, maybe to a 25 so we can read it properly. And now that we have this one, all I have to do is copy it. I can paste it here, and it says it doesn't fit in this area because it's too large. So that's fine. I'll just add a new button, and then this one fits kind of half of the screen, about there. And then I'll make this one white as well. This one will be our pay button, and then this one will also be a next screen. Click OK, link it to the pay screen. So in my case, I can link it like this, payments, and then click OK. So this one will take us to the payments, increase the font slightly, like that. And then we can copy this, paste it. So now we have another one right beneath it, and we can make this one red. And then this one can be functions. And then this one will send us to the function screen here, and then save it. Now, one thing that I'm noticing is that this pay and function screens are a little bit too thin. So we can fix that by going to the configuration area, and we have all of the different content areas here. So we can see right of detailed content area, the width is 50. You can probably increase it to maybe 70. So let's save that really quick, go back to the edit, and again, it broke my aspect ratio, and we have this one is now at 70, and we should make this one the same. So let's go to the configuration, right of content area 50, 70, save, move the aspect ratio again, and now they're both a little bit wider. Now, the next thing we want to work on is the main navigation area. So we're going to have all of these main tabs at the top, and each tab will contain side tabs. Now, I don't know what side tabs are contained into the cocktails and beer, wine, everything else. So I'm just going to recreate this one for liquor. So we have vodka, gin, rum, scotch, etc. So what we can do is click on our navigation area here. So we can add navigation bar item. And then we have to select here, we have to be very careful at the type of item select. Now, if we do want tabs, we have to make sure that we do select the tabbed content area from the beginning. If you add a simple content area, you cannot add tabs at a later time. So this one had 6 tabs, and then the name is gonna be liquor. And then click OK. Next, we're gonna add another one. This one will be cocktails, and also I'm gonna add tabs to it. Okay. And now that I added all my screens, I'm gonna go ahead and save again. And of course it changed my aspect ratio because it likes to be annoying. So if you go back to 4:3 and then 16:9, it will change it back. So now that we have all of them added, let's go to our liquor, and I noticed I misspelled this. So we can change the item name here, and then we can also configure this particular, just this tab, to change the different detail areas. So if we don't want a particular detail area only on this tab, we can remove it as needed. If we want to change the location of this tab, we can use the arrow keys here at the bottom. We can delete it by clicking the delete navigation bar item, and then we can add a new one by clicking add navigation bar item. Now, in order to change the side tabs, all we have to do is click on them, and then we can see the tab name here and the same arrows, only this time they're up or down. Now, another way we can change this is again in the configuration area. So I'm gonna click this, and then navigation. We have liquor, cocktails, beer, wine, beverages, everything. So we have the same style navigation and then the tabbed items here. And we can change them from here, but we just don't have the visual the same way we have it in the edit section. And we do have access to the visibility and the default here, but we also have access to that in this view as well. So I prefer to edit in this view. If you prefer the other one here under the navigation, you can go ahead and use it. And besides the configuration area, like I was saying, we do have visibility. If you want particular tabs to be visible only in particular situations, like for example, I am hiding my manager functions, I can say this item is visible based on some conditions, and then I can edit the conditions. And I can add the condition that the employee class equals manager, or you could hide it in a particular revenue center. Let's say that one screen is only used in one of the revenue centers. So you could say this particular tab is visible only in the restaurant maybe, or at a particular property. And there's a couple of others here. You can only see this if there's a till assignment and everything else. So for now, I'm gonna remove this. Click OK, and I'm gonna check the box that this item is always visible. Now, besides visibility, there's also the default. So you can say that this item is not the default item, this item is the default item, or this item is the default based on conditions. So we can add conditions just like we added with visibility for this particular item to be the default when a particular class of employee signs in. So maybe we would want the bartenders to go to the default liquor screen when they sign in, versus we would want the servers to go to the beverages area. I don't know if that's the best example because both servers and bartenders order liquor and beverages, but just to give you an idea of what the default would do. So I'm gonna leave it back in the configuration area. And another advantage to having the screen the way I have it with the transaction screen like this, I can actually set the food area to be the default in the restaurant and then the drinks area to be the default in the bar. So if you do have it combined, you can work with it, but if you do have different pages, then it won't necessarily work like that. So now that I have all of my main tabs labeled correctly, I'm gonna go through and edit the name of my site tab. So this one is just called tab 1. So my first one is vodka. And then the second one is gin. So I just go through them, rename them. Third one is rum. And then you can just add as many and rename them as you want to. And with this one works exactly the same as with the main navigation area. If you need to add more, you just click add tab item and then delete them as needed and use the arrows to move them around if you want one to be further up than the other. Now there is a limitation to this with the workstations. You should have no more than 6 tabs. If you need to add more than 6, what's going to happen is these tabs will actually overflow to the bottom and you won't be able to see them. Now on my big computer screen, you will be able to see more than 8, but you won't be able to do that on the workstation due to its resolution. So if you do want to have more than 8, you'll have to be careful to change the size of these items. So you see here we have the tab item width and height. So you can change it to probably 60 or something smaller if you need to add 9 or 10 tabs to ensure that the employees will be able to still see them and press them. Next, we're going to work on the bottoms here. At the bottom, we have the food one. So we're going to have to add the reorder, edit condiment, next seat, and so on. So all I'm going to do is copy this food one. And now that I have a copy of it, I'm gonna do the reorder, and this one is a yellow one. So I'm gonna select my yellow here, and from the function, I'm gonna look for reorder. So I'm gonna select touch reorder, generate, and then I can remove the touch. I can just leave reorder, Control C for copy, Control V for paste. And then the next one is edit condiment. So this is a recall pop-up condiment order. Now, what I do for this one is I don't really use this, because what happens is if I'm in the check detail area, all I have to do is click on the condiment on a menu item with a condiment, and the pop-up condiment order is still here. But if you want to add it, you can go ahead and do that. I will also make it green. And then let me select 2 of these, copy, paste them in place, move them here just so I have 2 button copies. So this one is called next seat. So we're gonna look for the function called next seat, click OK, generate legend, change the name here. And then this one will also be a nice color. We can choose the steel. So now that we got this bottom bar taken care of, all we need to do is design the screen a little bit. If you see, these top buttons are a little bit bigger and these are a little bit wider, and also add the screen lookup. So let's take a look at that. I'm gonna click this one, and then for height, I can increase it to maybe a 140. So that's gonna make this one taller. And now that we do have this taller, we can change the font to maybe 30. So it fits nicer. And then this one will also make it wider. So the width right now is set at 120. We can take a look at a 200. So this one will be wider just like that one, and that looks much better. And now the only thing we have to add left is the screen lookup. So if I right click here, I have add button in dining table, but I don't have the screen lookup. One more option that I have here that I want to show you is the change size. So this is the size of this grid, and you can change the size of every grid, even this one here, if you want to make it bigger or smaller. If you need more detail when adding buttons, you can go ahead and change it. So this one is a 24 by 24, which is plenty sized, but if you want to change it, you can increase it. Now, be careful not to increase it too much, because increasing it too much, it will make the workstation be slightly laggy when you move through screens. So you can increase this one, just don't go too crazy with it. So in order to add our screen lookup, we have this other key here. So besides the standard button, we also have a couple of other options. So we have a condiment combo area, dining table, a check slew, the entry area, which is similar to this one here, and everything else. So what I'm going to select is a sales slew, and then I got this little piece here, and all I have to do is make it larger. So now that I have my sales slew, I'm gonna go to the type of slew that is showing. So I'm gonna select my vodkas. So all you have to do is scroll down, find the vodkas, and then select it. And there are a couple of items here for the layout. You can choose this to be a grid or a list. You can also have a tabbed grid. So what this is gonna do is add the little tabs here. If you have a lot of menu items here, a lot of vodkas, for example, and they take up more than one space, then you can add these items here for the first letter. So this is gonna be an automatic filter. If you're looking for Stoli, for example, all you have to do is find the S here, click the S, and it's going to show you all the vodkas that contain S. And then the layout is set to horizontal. You can also make it vertical. So now they go menu item 1, 2, 3. You can make them go 1, 2, 3 if you want to. You can adjust the size. So right now it's a 5 by 5, 5 by 5. You can also set the max button height. I do like the auto page key. So these are the page up, page down here. I do not usually use the home and end. If I have a screen lookup that is big enough that I need a home and an end, usually I would go and break it up into multiple slews or even use a dynamic slew. For the sort type, I like to sort it alphanumeric. So that's going to be ordered alphabetically, as opposed to numeric will just be the number that they have in EMC. So we can check the button to use sort priority, and I'll show you what that does in just a second. And then we'll go to font size, and we can increase this one to maybe a 25. So the menu items are easier to read, maybe a tiny bit smaller, like a 22, just in case we have any of the menu items that have a long name. And then we can also save. It's a good time to save now because we made a bunch of changes. And now we have the styles. So we can change the button style, make the button white. And then for the navigation style, make it different, like this steel color. So you have your page up, page down different from the colors of your button. And that's pretty much it. That's how I would design this particular bar screen. I think we came pretty close. We could definitely adjust a couple of the numbers to be a little bit bigger, or some of the fonts. But all in all, it looks pretty much the same. Srijit, thank you very much for your question. I hope this helps you design your bar screen. And if you have a question, please leave it in the comments below, or any kind of programming question you would like to see featured in a future video. If you are interested in our Facebook group, I'll leave a link to it in the description below. It is open and free for anybody to join. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.